I feel you'll have a better overall knowledge of parallels and everything if you just look back towards more the simplicity of it. Obviously, the base cards nowadays are boring, nothing is exciting about it, but that used to be all you had.
Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Wax Talk with Raw Mints. I'm Carlos.
And I'm Bruce.
And on today's episode, we're going to be talking about the world of parallels of sports cards. What that means, what parallels are, and how they kind of compare to one another. But before we get into that, as always, if you could please be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Share, rate, review. Again, this helps us really get the word out and spread the podcast to new listeners. We're always looking for new listeners. We're always looking for feedback, whether it be positive or negative. We're here to serve you out there. So again, thank you for listening and taking the time out of your morning, day, whenever it is you may be listening to this, to hear two guys talking about sports cards ad nauseum. We really appreciate you. So let's get into the topic, man.
So yeah, this is basically going to be a topic about parallels, inserts, pretty much that whole world of everything in addition to base cards. To cover the basis of parallels and everything else, really we have to talk about the beginning, which is just base cards. Nowadays, there's so many products, parallels, number cards that are even not really worth value, different color. There's just too much going on nowadays. It's very overwhelming for people that get in, because most people that get into the hobby, they really just focus on the new stuff, the modern stuff, which is the ultra modern, which is the hottest. But getting a grasp, going back towards vintage, starting with base, working your way up to 80s, 90s, more inserts and stuff, I think that that's just important. I feel you'll have a better overall knowledge of parallels and everything if you just look back towards more the simplicity of it. Obviously, the base cards nowadays are boring, nothing is exciting about it, but that used to be all you had for, certain cards, for Topps or Bowman, mainly, Leaf, other sets like that. It was just the base card that you have in the set. You have rookie cards. It seems like now you have rookie inserts. You have rookie cards in the set. I mean, that it's just overwhelming when I'm like, hey, who's a player you like? Get their rookie card, especially when you were first getting into it.
Right.
You were probably looking at Prism base, Prism emergent and whatever else, and then colors, and it's very overwhelming.
So before we go any further, a parallel in the sports card world is anything pretty much above base. So you have your base card that's just a regular card. It could be a base chrome card. It could be a base paper card. A parallel is anything above that. So this means that it's usually more short printed than those base cards. So a parallel can be a color. It could be a type of finish on the card itself. It could be a cardstock thickness. It could be serial numbered. It can be anything from silver to orange to blue cracked ice to refractor to purple refractor to blue velocity. These are all types of parallels, and some of them are numbered, some of them are not. So go on, man.
Yeah, so now you have so many different parallels, whereas before you didn't. To me, the first thing you have with anything above a base card is kind of like that insert card within the set. So we're not even talking up to when, especially in the 90s, when you have the regular set and then you have the different inserts, some numbered, some not, whatever. You have, let's say, a 700 card set, and you have a base card, and maybe the high number card of that player is featuring another player or two other players. To me, I consider that kind of an insert to an extent. Like, for an example, 1968 Topps Roberto Clemente. He has a base card in the set, and then in that same set, I believe he has 2, maybe even 3 separate cards in the set. So to me, it's somewhat considered a side card, an insert card, even though we haven't dabbled into what it means to have a completely different insert set outside of the regular set. So that was something with vintage where it started. It was kind of just something to, kind of keep the hobby going, is the way that I look at it, just to have more cards of your favorite player, whatever the case is. leading up to whenever you started having sets, maybe to get rid of some of the junk wax era things, instead of having 600-700 cards in a set, you would have maybe even 200 to 300 cards in a set, and then you would have an insert set. Back in the 90s especially, I remember with baseball, you could get, I remember, I think it was a Donruss or Leaf set, they had the Elite series where there's like 20 cards in the set, Ken Griffey Jr., Barry Bonds, Cal Ripken Jr., whoever. And these cards were numbered to like 10,000, which back in the day was a huge deal, man. I mean, 10,000, I mean, you're just still like, oh, I have a short printed card. So it was kind of cool. They fetched a premium just because a lot of these inserts, you were only getting one per box if you were lucky. Like some of the big ones that people still collect to this day, like in basketball, is Skybox has like the rubies, or certain parallels, or the metal sets have the precious metal gem cards,
Right.
which you were lucky if you got one of those in a box.
Right.
And if you did, like for me, I remember I from one of the metal sets, I got a Sam Cassell, who was a great basketball player,
Oh, no
but
doubt.
still it wasn't the Michael Jordan, or I believe it was Tim Duncan's rookie year that I'm thinking of. So like 97, 98.
Right.
But yeah, a lot of those, I mean, those are short printed, because you're lucky if you get one in a box.
To put what you just said into perspective, if these cards, right, were numbered to 10,000, right, for the example that you used.
For the 90s baseball, yeah.
Yeah, so if these cards were numbered to 10,000, that doesn't mean that there was 10,000 total cards out there. That meant that there was 10,000 per player that was featured in that set. So if you were guaranteed one of these per box, multiply, by however many players are featured in that set to be able to get that number to 10,000 card, multiply that by the amount of players that were involved in that set, or that were featured in that set, by how many boxes had to be out there if you're guaranteed one per box. That kind of
Exactly.
goes to show, in a nutshell, the overproduction of the junk wax era.
These cards that are numbered to 10,000, like back in the 90s, I mean, you would see certain cards in card shops and they were like 50 to 100 bucks, which was a lot of money at the time considering it was cards. It wasn't always, every single card is hot. Every single card could be a 10 and it's worth this much, this X amount or whatever. But these same cards now, because of nostalgic purposes of collectors that are my age or just have been doing a lot of research, I mean, now again, it's turning those cards into PSA 10s, which still fetch a premium, but it's weird because a lot of these cards to me still, it's like, even though they're numbered to 5,000, 10,000, some of them even probably like 50,000, dude. I remember on some random inserts, but these aren't cards that you see a lot.
Right.
That like realistically, I mean, people don't have them in their display cases unless they got a graded copy, whatever. But that's kind of the thing that I like about it too, is just, even though there's so many of them out there, like what really are you seeing now? I see way more ultra modern cards than I do 90s inserts.
Right, and which is kind of crazy to think that at that time of the junk wax era, right, these cards were highly sought after. And once the hobby kind of crashed after the junk wax era, people started to realize, oh, well, these weren't worth anything. So they'd imagine all the people that just threw their collections away, or just kind of gave up and just threw all of their cards in a dumpster. Like, now, because those people lost faith in the hobby, now those overproduced, those high numbered 10,000, 5,000 cards are actually more rare now, because who held on to those cards? If you're told your card isn't worth squat, or not worth nearly what you paid for it at that time, like, are you going to be motivated to keep that? Like, do you have the foresight, even as a kid, to realize, like, oh, well, this is going to make a comeback one day? So now, even though those numbered cards were overproduced at the time, like, now they're kind of harder to find now, like you just said.
That's like with anything, though. I mean, I see a lot of people in dipping real quick outside of inserts. I mean, 1989 Donruss Ken Griffey Jr. rookie cards, like raw, $1, dude. Like maybe even, let's say, $5 raw. And you could pick through these cards and figure out which ones are in the best condition or whatever. That's just something separate. That's just happened with the hobby in general, as all these cards were kind of forgot about, man. Like with baseball, it's like, even talking about Ken Griffey Jr., Barry Bonds, like a lot of these guys, I mean, Frank Thomas, there was just a period where nobody paid attention to those cards. Like Mike Trout came into the picture, and that kind of boosted that market for baseball and got people more into prospecting and stuff like that. But there's been a minute, even before the pandemic, where people really didn't pay attention to these rookie cards, let alone insert cards. And now more and more people, especially people that have had these cards in their collections for a long time, they're either grading them, or other people see a card and they take interested in it, they buy it, and then that's what reopens this market for this type of thing.
Right.
And you're going to see it with inserts, because it's a big deal with when we talk about parallels, because you have certain sets that are like acetate cards, certain sets that are like, I remember 1996 SPX basketball, which I think has there's a Kevin Garnett card in it that might be considered a rookie, but that was a die cut card. Every single card in the pack, I think you got even one card per pack, and every single one of them was die cut. And you were just hoping to pull either, there was 4 corners on the card, all silver. That was the base card. The actual player on the front, there was a holographic behind it. I mean, really before its time kind of stuff. There's a lot of cool products out now, but for 1996, this is a huge deal. So
Right.
you open these packs, 1 card per pack or whatever, and then some of the corners could be gold. That was your parallel, and then there was also a chance of hitting, certain Michael Jordan tribute cards. Some of them were autographed, some of them were hand numbered.
Yeah.
Those cards are out there. They fetch a really high premium, I'm sure, but these were just big deals back in the day and really ahead of its time. The biggest one obviously being with refractors. What we know now today with football, basketball, pretty much any sport, what you consider a silver prism to me is a refractor. Really, that's the way that I look at it. I get the terminology for it now, but when it comes to Topps Chrome LeBron James refractor, you wouldn't call it a silver.
Right.
It's a refractor. So
It's the difference between
if that makes
Topps
any sense,
and
that's kind
Panini,
of that's just kind of how long I've been doing this, that I just kind of relate to it that way. But in 90 baseball, we have Topps Finest was one of the first products to come out, which I believe was 93, 94. I think
Nasty
93.
set. Penny Hardaway's rookie year.
There's no refractors that pop like they did in the 90s, especially with like Bowman's Best Baseball. A lot of those 90s products, man. Refractors, they just do not shine the way that they do. I don't know. They're just on a different level. A lot of them you see in sets like with Kobe Bryant's rookie, Tim Duncan's rookie, they have a tendency to green a little bit. Some of them are really well preserved, put away, kept in a good climate, away from sunlight. I think that may have saved some of them, but it's just the normal deterioration. Like, you have to keep in mind that these were new products of the time. These were the premium products of the time, so they were experimenting, trying to get it right. Now everything's down to a science, but I think that that's what makes these older cards a little bit more rare and valuable. Is one, you get a box of Finest, you probably get like a refractor or 2 in the box, and you may not get a Hall of Famer or anybody decent, but you didn't have, I'm going to pull a refractor, I'm going to pull hopefully a gold or a superfractor. No, you just had the refractor, so I think that's a huge significance.
Right.
And you mentioned, Penny Hardaway's rookie year, the Jordan refractor in that set, super high premium. Even the Shaquille O'Neal, there's Hall of Famers in that set.
For the Topps Finest.
That's the first Finest set.
Yeah.
And the first set for refractors, really.
Yeah, right. You're right. Yep. They just hit different, dude. They look, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just nostalgia just burned into, because even though I wasn't collecting as a kid, I still knew what these cards were. I still knew what they looked like.
Yeah.
My friends still collected. My dad could never justify spending $5 on a pack of pieces of paper when I was growing up, so I didn't really have the option as a kid.
Yeah. But you still catch the vibe. You
exactly.
know what I mean? You feel the it's just got that older style to it. It's just, I don't know. Recommend more people dabbling into that just to feel nostalgia, even if you're a lot younger than we are. I mean, you can still see the difference in products, and it's just kind of cool.
And I mean, even recently, I know we spoke about it on a previous podcast, when I started picking up late 80s, early 90s Michael Jordan graded cards. That was because I finally had finished the Last Dance, and this wasn't whenever the Last Dance first premiered. I think I watched like the first maybe 2 episodes, and then life kind of happened and I got busy. I never got around to finishing it, and then I actually just ended up finishing it like last December when I went on that MJ spree on eBay.
Yeah.
which I'm glad that I did wait because those prices skyrocketed during the airing of The Last Dance. But when I
Mm-hmm.
finally finished it and I went back and realized, like, damn, I remember being a kid and just those later years, those 96, 97 championship years, and being super into basketball at the time. Huge Suns fan at the time, a huge Michael Jordan fan. Most kids were, most people were in general, just fans of Michael Jordan, and taking me back to that nostalgia of watching the sport itself. And now with my newfound hobby and my newfound, I guess you could say, side business of sports cards, that really brought me to start focusing more on older cards, on, I guess, what we would consider modern vintage cards.
Yeah.
That really piqued my interest. It brought me back to that time period. And like I said, I wasn't able to collect as a kid. My family just didn't have the means for it, or the justification for it. But now that I'm an adult and I can make my own damn decisions, um,
Yeah.
it was fun to pick up all of those cards.
That's a good point to make, man, because it's like, and that goes for anybody that just was either a super avid sports fan or, just remember for nostalgic reasons. That gave you the access to dive into the hobby full force. That's like, to me, like bringing up a quick memory, like I remember watching highlight reels. I remember telling you about this, I think, a while back ago, but I picked up a Dominique Wilkins rookie card, and I like all I could think about is just watching highlight reels. Me and my friend Seth, rest in peace. We used to be at his parents' house. We were younger, popping in the VHS tapes. For anybody that knows about that, of highlight reels, slam dunk contests.
Oh
Just
yeah.
old school NBA. Just watching those and listening to that old school music, and that's why that kind of stuff has a soft spot in my heart. Like just thinking of Spud Webb and Dominique
Right.
Wilkins, and that whole 86 87 Fleer set has some amazing rookies in it too, but
Right.
those are the guys that I remember. So yeah, it's for those reasons alone. I mean, you have easy access into picking up a card or something that just you have a memory of in your mind for whatever reason. It's important. It's like owning a piece of art or photography.
Right. So to get back to the topic, I think your story was kind of getting rounded out about the origins of quote unquote parallels or inserts and the importance of inserts now compared to then. How do you feel about, because I mean, even now, right, you have all of these products, and I know we'll probably continue to compare the hobby now compared to when it was when you were a kid or when you were younger, with all of the products, which again, at that time, the Junk Wax era, there was tons of products out, right? High print runs of cards. With all the products now in the hobby in the modern or the ultra modern era, each product there's not a single product that doesn't have a parallel or an insert in it, correct?
I would say, yeah, unless you have a certain curated set of some sort. Factory sets do still exist for certain things, but pretty much anything now has a parallel. And again, it's just stressing the importance, understanding this exploded market now. It really just starts from the beginning. People, if there's so much to get into now, and if you like that fast pace of just dabbling into every single product that you can, that's awesome if that works. And maybe this is because I'm old school about it and I started from when there wasn't all this stuff, but I just think that more people could get into the hobby and learn quicker about it if they start from the beginning, learning about older cards and working your way up, because then you understand what it was like to have a base set with nothing else, and then the parallels that slowly began to surround it. If you jump into the hobby now, it's all about chasing the parallels that surround the base cards. So it's overwhelming.
Right. And even with the current state of the market and the grading industry and the grading fiasco that's arisen recently, the value of those base cards, as far as investing goes, if you just like to complete sets, if you just like to build binders and build that either 250 300 card base set, then by all means do that and continue to do that. That's definitely an aspect of the hobby that doesn't really get that much love. And if you just build a binder, if you're a kid, if you're young, or if you just want to do that, it's part of collecting, man. That's another way of collecting cards. And if you open some sealed product and you do hit that LaMelo Ball base card, you do hit that, Anthony Edwards, Tyrese Halliburton, James Wiseman base cards, all of the rest of the set is going to be pretty affordable when it comes to the base set. Those are the big chase cards that everybody's after, even the base cards right now. But if you were to even just hit the LaMelo, like, you can shell out a little bit of cash for the other top rookies of this class, and then you're going to probably be paying, if you can find somebody on eBay that maybe is a breaker, maybe does break a lot of wax, and maybe opened a case and just has a ton of base cards. You could easily just probably find somebody that's willing to offer like 50 cents per card or $1 per card. And that's kind of an aspect of the hobby that I don't think we've really talked about a whole lot, and I don't really see it on Instagram or on social media about people making sets. Everybody's just talking about those senior cards, but maybe this whole PSA pause is gonna help people navigate the space differently and figure out other ways to collect. And
Yeah.
I mean, this topic for this episode is about parallels and inserts and die cut cards, which are awesome. And obviously, I would much rather have a silver card than a base card, because the silvers just pop different, or a refractor card. But there's always other ways and other avenues to explore.
Yeah, there's different ways to basically build up. You start with, if you're trying to complete a base set, why not purchase all of the common cards, the semi-stars, work your way up. Even a lot of the veterans, the stars, will be relatively affordable. It's when you get into certain rookies, it's a little bit harder to obtain anymore nowadays, at least. But going with inserts too, you can do the same thing. If you like a certain set, regardless of what it is, let's say Topps Chrome or Prism or whatever, you want to complete the refractor set. Start with the lower end cards, start accumulating them, and then work your way up to the bigger cards. Our friend Brad is a perfect example of that, because with Prism every year he collects the green set. So what does he do? He picks up the cheapest cards from the set and works his way up. He did that with 2018 Prism
Basketball,
Luka's year, just working his way up, and eventually he got the whole set. I believe a couple of them now are graded like PSA 10s, is Luka and his tray.
Yep.
But I mean, that's a good way to approach, like, if and it doesn't have to be green, but if you like inserts or parallels, figure out what's your favorite parallel, because even if it is that orange to 25, if you really just like orange to 25, there's still certain cards in that set that are probably going to be relatively affordable. Definitely, even let's say $5 to $20. It exists. But just get some of those cards, and then work your way up over time. I mean, there's just different ways to collect that way, whether it's inserts, base, whatever. But just, again, keep in mind that there's more and more products coming out. There's more and more parallels that sometimes I even see a parallel and I don't understand it. But I mean, it's cool. It gives people more options that way, but it's just good to have a more overall knowledge of, where it started and then what has continued to surround it and grow from there.
Right. And speaking of the green set and building your parallel collection, another way to collect, another thing that people do other than building the whole entire green set, which shout out to Brad, Cards and Shards on Instagram, follow him for sure. But another thing that you can do involving parallels is completing a rainbow, which for those for people that don't know, what is a rainbow?
It depends. I mean, I immediately think of baseball, so like Bowman Chrome is a little bit different, but I'll use that as an example.
Okay.
So a rainbow, I consider the base card, that you have to have the base card as well. Some people will just start from the regular refractor. So say you have a base card not numbered, then you get into a refractor, which is to like $4.99, basically 500, and then you work your way down from there. So you have purple, blue, green, orange, red, superfractor 101, and then maybe some other oddball colors in between that. Actually, sometimes you got black refractors and whatever, but that kind of splits up. Starting from completing a rainbow, you want to have that same card, essentially that same card, that same photo, have it in the base version, working your way up to the most rarest colored version of that,
which is usually the one of one, the only one in existence, which that's
for the most part,
toughest one usually. I'm actually in the process of completing a rainbow with my favorite player, Edinson Cavani, with Obsidian Soccer. The Tunnel Vision insert, which is an insert, it's not the base card. The Tunnel Vision insert I have all of the cards in that Obsidian checklist for that insert, the tunnel vision insert, all the way up until the one of one. So that's the only one that I'm missing. I think there's one that's a T-Mall edition, which is like an Asian release that I just almost impossible to find. But I'm still waiting on that one of one to pop up, and I'm gonna buy it no matter what the cost is. I have all the other ones.
If it ever pops up, it's probably still waiting to be opened.
Right, it's probably still in the sealed box, which I'm not gonna be spending the price for Obsidian to try to find that when there's only like 7 or 8 cards per hobby box.
Although you did get in on some pretty good breaks.
100%.
Yeah, I mean, you got some great cards in that. What is, out of all those Cavani's, what is the rarest parallel that you have right now?
The rarest parallel that I actually own is the Contra, and that's numbered to 8. That's that white color design. It's so sick. I think I don't know if it's a T-Mall or maybe it's like a rewards redemption parallel. It's the pink to 11. That's one of the other ones I don't have, but if that's something that's rewards, I don't really know how I'm going to complete that rainbow, even if that even exists out there.
Sometimes there's just like that exclusive one that you got to kind of count out of the base set. I mean, I feel like if you're talking about the base set and the parallels within it, then eventually if you do get that 101 or whatever, you're probably going to then chase that card just so you have like that master set or whatever.
For sure.
But
because I would assume it's going to be cheaper, because so for instance this rainbow, which I'm completing it because it's not like other sports where there's so many different parallels. This one, it's the base card, which is actually numbered to 135, which is kind of sick. The base card is numbered to 135. There's no color, and then these are the electric etch parallels. So there's the purple numbered to 65, orange numbered to 35, green to 25, yellow numbered to 15. Like I said, pink to 11, Contra to 8, and the blue finite 101. So I have everything but the 101 and the rewards redemption pink to 11.
Yeah, you're getting closer.
Which those, I mean, Obsidian in general, I don't even care if it's Obsidian baseball with no logos or team names. Obsidian has to be one of my favorite products, and it's mostly because of the parallels. The parallels are so sick. The colors are sometimes it's kind of tough to tell what the color parallel is because they only highlight like certain lines within the design, which me as a graphic designer, that is so dope to me, that it's just very minimalistic. Everything else usually looks the same unless it's like that Contra that's white and it's kind of like an inverted colors for the design itself. But all the other parallels, like, you have to really pay attention, like with the purple, with the yellow, like it's just like the fine lines of the design that are different, and obviously the number on the back.
Yeah, I've always liked the overall design for Obsidian in football even. Yeah, it's really clean. It's really different for sure. Talking about parallels, inserts, different types of things, we're kind of combining it as well because a parallel can be different from an insert. There's just so many different variables, especially in this market, this day and age. For as long as you've been collecting, what is your favorite type of parallel or insert? I mean, what if you had to pick one right now? I mean, obviously the regular shape of a card is always going to be king, but I mean, as far as, whether it be an acetate card, a die cut card, what's your favorite design so far since you've been collecting?
So I'm a huge fan of the velocities in Optic.
Yeah.
I really like, I don't even know, it's like, if you take the time to look at an Optic velocity parallel card, you hold it under light and you like move it and see the design react to the light. It's so dope, dude. It's so cool. I don't even know what the technology is. It looks so sick, but I would probably have to say that the Velocity series or parallels in Optic are my favorite, more specifically. And even though it's not the most rare number, I really like that black Velocity, dude. It just pops so different, especially if you have a card or like a design of the player and it's a whiter or it's like a lighter design as far as like the photo goes. It just makes it look so sick, dude.
They definitely do a lot of cool stuff like that. With the ultra modern stuff, like the Choice, like Choice Prism or those brands. I mean, just the way that they cut in the refractor effects in those. I mean, the only thing that I can compare to that too, like remembering when it was just about refractors, like the next step above that was atomic refractors.
Hmm.
So you have like that crazy, you put it in a light, you put it in the light and it just shines differently. The squares, the shapes inside of the refractor effect. That's one of the big things that I remember that was pretty cool, specifically with, I'm trying to think of a set. I want to say like 96 Bowman's Best Football, which is like
Right.
Jake
Mm.
Plummer's rookie year.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it was 97. I don't know. But like just the atomic refractor approach was just something very different because it came in before the time of getting colored refractors. So realistically, you start with refractors, go to atomic refractors, and then like think of 2003 Topps Chrome LeBron James. I mean, you have the base, the refractor, an X-fractor, a black refractor, and a gold refractor. You don't have a green or a blue or a purple. So it just shows you, again, even going back to that around that year, you still see the limitation of as far as like different parallels and stuff and what it's come to now.
Right. That's like the technology has improved.
The farther you go back, you see, less types of those parallels. And I think in the long run, it's gonna hold more of a premium value because it's still, people like origin stories. After all the hype settles down from whatever's going on in the modern world, people always turn to that origin story. you
Right.
know that's kind of the way that I approach parallels.
It's a good
That's,
point.
and that's probably just because I've been doing this for so long that I still know what it was like, how hard it was to pull just a refractor of a card. So just something to note, I guess.
What would be your favorite parallel or insert or type of paper or cut?
Yeah, it's really hard to specifically note that.
For you, if you were to choose a product and parallel, what would it be?
um Depends on the sport. For baseball, it's still Bowman Chrome. I think that Bowman Chrome first cards, refractors, and then the Bowman Chrome autos, I feel like those are just something that I really appreciate because it just brings that true rookie card aspect to me. But yeah, I mean, I still fall in with, if I'm going to pick up a basketball card nowadays, ultra modern, I mean, I want a Prism Silver or a Optic Hollow.
Right.
That's kind of where I'm at. But yeah, just for nostalgic purposes, I brought up the Elite Series, which was a Dunris or Leaf product, and I still have a Ken Griffey Jr. It's like 93, 94, and it's got this beautiful gold border that just pops on it. And the card is numbered, I think, to 10,000, but it's like they don't make inserts like that anymore. They're just
Right.
not as meaningful. Even if they're numbered, it's sometimes I feel like you can printing technology is just so much different now. So it's just, I don't know, holding an older insert in your hands, even if it's super limited or not, maybe, but it's just still, I mean, to me that has more value that way, just sentimentally. So I still fall back on those older inserts, I guess. But yeah, I still love the newer stuff, colors and whatnot. But to me, my go-to is probably for baseball, Bowman Chrome, blue refractor. I think blue refractors and Bowman Chrome baseball just pop. So that's definitely still one of my favorite inserts.
I think that if I had to choose more than just one, it would probably be Topps Chrome, specifically 2017 Topps Chrome Champions League purple. That's numbered to 250. That pops so different. I love the way that card looks.
Soccer color in general just pops. I think that deserves its own separate thing, dude, to be honest. Because, yeah, if you talk soccer, Topps Chrome, especially for the past years, especially, 2017, 18, 19, they're just on a different level, man. I feel like they're tougher to grade, speaking from that point, but overall, I mean, they just pop. And I know you're sitting on a fat ComC box of soccer colors that
Yeah,
you gave
man.
me a preview of. Like, I mean, you can't find those cards. Just, it takes some work to come across that kind of stuff.
For sure. For sure. I also like the another good one to note is the Panini Select Blue, numbered to 299. Like high numbered serial cards, but dude, it just pops so differently. I just like the way the color
Yeah.
really accents things, especially if you can find a player that their jersey's blue.
Oh
Oh
yeah,
man,
I think yeah,
it's so sick.
blues just pop in general. I think, but yeah, blue like for soccer like a Manchester City like blue refractor. I think that's a really sick card.
So this week's Ask the Hobby segment of the podcast, we asked a question to Neum from NP Sports Cards 1 on Instagram. Really cool dude, super informative. We've been following him for quite some time now. He's so knowledgeable of the soccer market. We definitely lean on his takes. He's got a lot of really good takes that he posts every week on certain things happening in the soccer world, and it really helps us keep up to date with what's going on there. He does a lot of the work for us, really. He also has a podcast that I wanted to shout out that I've been listening to as well. It's really good. He just started it up. It's called Card Culture. You can find that on all the major platforms that you can find ours on. And that IG for that podcast is Card Culture 1. We really do value Neum's opinion within the soccer market and just in the hobby in general. Our question for him was, with the soccer market still being in its early stages within the hobby, what is your strategy for cards of players who are consistently in the top 10 footballers in the world? Are you trusting the trajectory of the soccer market? Are you picking up and holding these players' rookie cards or stickers long term, or are you selling them once the hype boosts? So, for example, good performances, goals, assists, awards, achievements, Champions League or just league championships, that type of thing.
Hey guys, it's Neum here from MP Sports Cards 1. And the guys at Raw Mints have basically asked my opinion. Basically, they want to know what's my strategy for cards of players who are consistently in the top 10 best footballers in the world. So, for me, I generally like to balance my portfolio. So, when I started out, I would be investing about 90 to 95% in established players. Now, that isn't just GOATs. That wasn't just Messi and Ronaldo. I think there was a lot of like De Bruyne, Lukaku, players like Rashford, Harry Kane. So I took a mixed approach between in that 90-95%. It was to me about getting a balance between the GOATs and the other world-class players who I think were just undervalued at the time. Like I was picking up De Bruyne Prisms for like $2, which made no sense to me, right? And so what happens is that 5 to 10% that I leave for rookies, that can go out of alignment pretty crazy, right? So Haaland's had a crazy run up. I have one of his cards that I got in pretty cheap, and now it's like a good chunk of my portfolio, like that one card. And so for me, it's time to move it, and I want to sell it, and I want to reinvest in either some nice high-end Messi, Ronaldo, maybe some low grade of their true rookies. I think that for me, at the stage that I've got to now after doing this for nearly a year, it's just so time-consuming for me to only do rookies, because you have to really keep an eye on the market, and you really have to know what you're doing to time it correctly, to know when to sell, to know when to buy. And I would just rather, at this point in time, have some safer assets in Messi, Ronaldo stuff, which I know is pretty safe. It's probably not going to go down, and it's going to continue to trend up. When exactly will it go up? I don't. It depends. I'm not really sure, and it's not really that important. For me, it's the security at this point, and the fact that if I buy one of those cards, I don't have to worry about it. But my advice would be, if you are looking at flipping, if you are looking at cards as day trading, then maybe you want to be a bit more risky in your buys. Maybe you want to go for like a 50-50 split between the established players and the rookies, and then just trying to understand how the market works. When's the best time to sell them? So for example, we have the Euros coming up, and a lot of people are going to get caught holding those Mbappe cards, and then France get knocked out at the semi-finals or something. The best time to sell those cards is going to be the end of May, the beginning of June, just before the tournament starts, because you can lock in your profits then, and you can use that hype to realize that monetary gain that you've made, and you don't run the risk of, someone underperforming, someone getting injured, someone getting knocked out really early. So just understanding how the market works in that way is really, really important. And then you can decide your allocation between, GOATs and safer investments and risky like rookies, but with more upside.
I think that was such a great response to that question, man. I think you really knocked it out of the park with what we were asking. Again, thank you, Neum, for answering our question. I think that is really going to help anybody that's trying to make sense of the soccer market right now. As far as his answer goes, or his response, I totally agree with his wanting to not have to be so on top of the rookie market. If you're into soccer, there's a lot of players, there's a lot of rookie cards, there's a lot of rookie stickers to keep track of.
It's a different type of rookie market too.
Exactly.
For sure.
And it's time consuming to have to stay on top of that. And for the time being, this is a pro tip for anybody that's listening and looking to invest in the soccer market. You can still get in super cheap on, like Neum said, the GOAT market. So that's Ronaldo, that's Messi, these people that are established that we've been talking about, that we've been investing in as well. You can still get in fairly reasonably priced in comparison to other sports right now. So his approach to his portfolio, I think, is pretty spot on to, which is kind of crazy that the shift that you and I have both recently come to the conclusion of when it comes to investing is GOATs only, and investing our time and money in those established players, like he mentioned in his response. Like he said too, with the day trading aspect of it, obviously you're going to want to make it's high risk, high reward, right? When it comes to day trading on players like Haaland, or if you're in with Foden or any of these other rookies, or Jadon Sancho, you're going to be making riskier bets. You're going to see higher ups and higher lows. And if you want to take advantage of that market, make it a portion of your portfolio, like he said. But you're not going to go wrong with investing in the GOATs, right?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think he answered that exactly, pretty much similar to our personal taste, to be honest. Especially for me, who I primarily collect rookie cards. I understand that with soccer, it's such a to be determined state of where that market actually goes. You know, I think you're always safest investing into the established players. Get into the rookies if you can. He made a good point of splitting it up 50-50 too. You know what I mean? Maybe, you know, some of the more established guys, maybe the other half getting into rookies. But for me too, it's like with soccer, there's so many guys that their prices are so low. Luka Modric, there's so many people, I mean, that are just great players. You know, they have some great stats overall. Not even speaking about in terms of rookies, you know, but you can pick up base cards, parallels, inserts, numbered stuff of these guys, and, you know, just kind of sit on it and see what happens. But I totally agree with everything he said, man, for sure.
Yeah, 100%. And if you're looking to get into the sports card market, like we've said before, soccer is still, you could still get in on soccer and not completely break the bank. You can still make some pretty good investments now while you can before the World Cup. Like he mentioned, the Euros coming up, you can still take advantage of these lower prices that we're betting on increasing over the course of the next 2 to 5 years, even the next year in value. That's why we've been picking up what we have. But he also made a really good point that I want to touch on real quick is, when's the best time to sell these players like Mbappe? When's the best time to sell these players like Haaland? Leading up to the Euros coming up this summer, that's a good time. But he also made a good point of, if you're in this to invest, you might want to not take that risk of what happens after the kickoff. You might want to take advantage of the hype building up, because we know it's going to happen. We know it's coming with the soccer market. With Euros, we're going to get a small preview of what the World Cup run is going to be like next year. After the Euros, that's the next major worldwide tournament, and we're going to see the highest soccer prices that we've ever seen. So if you're rolling the dice and you're willing to risk, or if you're not willing to take that risk, maybe it is time to sell before the Euros. But if you think the Euros price increase is big, just wait till the World Cup next year. And if there's anybody that knows how the soccer card market has been over the course of even our own journey, it's definitely Neum at NP Sports Cards 1. Definitely check him out. make sure to give him a follow. Reach out if you have an opinion of your own on his response of the podcast. Reach out to him. He's a really nice dude, really knowledgeable, and knows what he's doing. So thanks again, Niam, for that answer. We really appreciate you taking the time. So let's get into our pickups and flips of the week. So I'm going to start it off with my pickup of the week. I'm a pretty big Kobe Bryant fan. I'm trying to make the most of his prices skyrocketing after his untimely death. I think a lot of us in the collecting world saw some sides of the hobby that maybe we weren't aware of when, it just happens. When people pass away, regardless of the reason, you're going to see price bumps. Just happened with Hank Aaron. It's kind of tough to watch, but I mean, if cars are for sale, everything's for sale. You know what I mean? But I'm thankful that I'm still able to get in on a few Kobe Bryant early year cards. I picked up a 1998 Topps Finest. It's just a base card. It's not the refractor. PSA 9 Kobe, and it's card number 175 if you look it up. And I got that for $115 on eBay.
And is that particular card, does it have the coating on it? Is that with or without the coating?
This one actually has the coating removed, which I personally prefer the coating on. I think that looks way cooler in my opinion. Some people don't.
Well, it's just a different type of premium that, it may fetch, but overall, I mean, that's a solid pickup, man. I remember you sent me a picture of that card, and for building your Kobe collection, I mean, that's definitely one, to pick up. Especially, again, there's so many different products, even around Kobe's year. So picking up his first finest card all the way up to his last finest card, is kind of cool. Something to work towards.
For sure. What about your pickup?
My pickup is going to be a 1997-98 Topps Chrome Tim Duncan rookie card. This is card number 115. I recently picked this up in an SGC 8. It's a beautiful card. It's got a little bit of greening on it, which is pretty common for these cards. I've seen worse, I've seen better. But yeah, with Tim Duncan especially, I mean, his prices have slowly been rising, but next month, May, should be inducted into the Hall of Fame. His prices should go up a little bit more. And overall, I feel like Tim Duncan has been kind of underrated and slept on for quite some time, and recently he's gotten more acknowledgement, and I feel like that's only going to improve. I mean, again, he's one of the GOATs in my eyes.
GOATs only. So my flip of the week this week is a 2018 Panini Prism World Cup Paul Pogba card number 74. It's a red-blue wave parallel PSA 10. I picked up this card when we were first getting into the soccer market about a little over a year ago now, actually, now that I think of it, when the pandemic first started. I picked up this card along with a lot of other parallel cards for $2. I actually even think I got this specific card for $1.50 with one of the sellers that we found on eBay. And I sold this card for $200.
It's a beautiful card, though.
It is, man. Speaking of parallels, like red and blue wave, it just kind of hits different with that Prism parallel, with that Prism World Cup cards. What about you, man?
My flip is probably going to be a 2019 Prism Kyler Murray PSA 10. I acquired this card before the pandemic in a trade. At the time, I want to say, let's say even $30 to $60 value is probably where it was at. At the hype, this same card in a PSA 10, I believe, fetched around, I don't know, 800, maybe even more. Came down a little bit. I believe it sits probably around 575, 600 range. I got rid of this card at 600 trade value. So I think it was a deal where there was, let's say, 400 cash and then a few cards thrown in. I don't remember exactly what the cards were. I think one of them was a PSA 9 Optic Hollow Ja Morant rookie card.
Nice.
So one of those things, a card that I see increasing in value, it's okay. I have a few other Kyler Murrays. You get rid of a card, but you still get a few cards in the process, maybe in a trade, and get some cash on the side. That always works as well.
For sure. That's a nice flip, man. But yeah, so that wraps up our flips and pickups of the week. All right, man. So do you think that we covered the parallels, inserts, die cuts, cut types of cards in this episode? Is there anything else you wanted to add?
Nope. Just remember to learn that origin story, where it
Right.
began, where it's at now, and then figure out what you like and go from there.
For sure. Always go back to the origin story of things. That's pretty much all movies right now is an origin story. So
Yeah.
it can definitely translate into cards, and you can have a better affinity for the hobby if you do go back to the roots of the hobby and even just doing research. You don't need to necessarily pick up or collect things from that time, but just do your research and just look at cards, look at how they were made, look at the different inserts, the styles. You'll be surprised that a lot of the inserts that you see now actually had an origin story otherwise. There's whole products dedicated to reviving the designs of past products, like Topps Heritage. Definitely check that out. So we really do hope that you enjoyed this episode today about parallels, and we hope that you kind of have a better understanding of what that means and what you can expect in different products. In a future episode, we'll definitely dive into the different products and what those parallels entail, but for now, we just kind of wanted to give an overall broad view and explanation of what parallels used to be, what they are now, and what you can expect from both. So as always, if you could be sure to subscribe if you aren't already, rate, review if you can, share this with somebody that needs to hear about sports cards and needs to join us all on our journey in the hobby. The more the merrier. That we love sharing what we do here and what others do. Shout out to Niam from NP Sports Cards 1. Great dude. Thank you for participating in today's episode. Be sure to check him out. Check out Card Culture Podcast, anywhere you get podcasts. So this has been another episode of Wax Talk with Raw Mints. I'm Carlos.
And I'm Bruce.
Thank you for listening.